Assalamu alaikum students. Today we will discuss the histology of liver. So up till now you know that liver is the gland associated with the GIT. Now how many glands are associated with GIT? Salivary glands, pancreas, gallbladder and liver. So liver is the largest mass of glandular tissue and it is the largest internal organ and its weight is about 1500 grams. Located in the right upper quadrant of the abdomen just below the diaphragm, the liver has major left and right lobes with two smaller inferior lobes, most of which are covered by a thin capsule and mesothelium of the visceral. The chief functions of the liver can be grouped into 5 main categories. Now, first of all, very important function is the carbohydrate metabolism, which plays a major role in regulation of blood glucose level by gluconeogenesis, glycogenolysis and glycogenesis. In addition, the liver converts carbohydrates into fatty acids. Number 2 important function is fat metabolism, which includes the synthesis of lipoproteins and cholesterol and oxidation of triglycerides. Number 3 function is protein metabolism, which includes synthesis of plasma proteins and clotting factors, synthesis of non-essential amino acids and deamination of amino acids, which results in production of urea. Now number 4 function is storage function. The liver serves as a storehouse of many nutrients which are released into the blood as and when needed. These nutrients include glucose, triglycerides, vitamin A, vitamin D, E, K and B12. Now number 5 function, very important function, detoxification of ingested toxins and drugs. The toxins and most of the drugs ingested by an individual are first oxidized and then conjugated in the liver. The resulting water-soluble end products are passed into the blood, which are removed from the circulation by the kidneys and eliminated from the body in the urine. Last, very important function, secretion of bile. The liver synthesizes and secretes a fluid known as bile. The bile mainly contains the conjugated and degraded waste products which are delivered to the intestine to be eliminated from the body in fecal excretion. In addition, bile contains substances which aid in digestion of lipids in the small intestine. And also excretion of bilirubin. The bilirubin, an orange-yellow pigment, is produced chiefly in the spleen, where the affected erythrocytes are removed from the circulation and heme portion of the hemoglobin is broken down to form bilirubin. The portal venous blood carries the bilirubin to the liver where it is conjugated with the glycuronic acid and the conjugate is excreted in the bile. Three interpretations of the liver structure have been proposed. These include the classical hepatic lobule, the portal lobule, and the hepatic acinus. At the angles of each hexagonal hepatic lobules are present roughly triangular areas known as portal areas or portal triads. You can see here at the corners of the hexagon are lying the areas which are known as triangular areas, which are known as portal areas or portal tracts. Each portal area is seen to contain three distinct tubular structures lying in a small amount of connective tissue. These tubular structures collectively known as portal triad. These include a bile ductule shown in the green one. This is the branch of the bile duct. It is known as bile ductule. And a venule, which is a branch of portal vein. This is the venule, which is a branch of portal vein, and an arteriole, which is a branch of hepatic artery. However, it should be noted that the lymphatics of the liver also run in these portal triads. So these are the portal triads which are present at the corners of the hepatic lobule. So this is the portal lobule showing the three distinct structures. This is the branch of portal vein. You can see here this is the branch of portal vein, and this is the arteriole, which is the branch of hepatic artery, and this is the branch of the bile duct. You can see that it is lined by cuboidal epithelium. So this and this whole structure is present at the corners of the hepatic lobule, and small amount of connective tissue is present in between these structures. The bile flows in narrow channels called the bile canaliculi, which are located between the adjacent cells in the plates of the liver hepatocytes, liver cells. It is to be specifically understood that the bile canaliculi are simple tubular spaces between the adjacent liver cells. So their wall are formed by the plasma lemma of the liver cells, and the canaliculi do not have any specific lining of epithelium on their own. These are the bile canaliculi. And bile is formed in these hepatocytes, and it is drained by these bile canaliculi into the system of the ducts and ultimately into the bile duct. Here. The portal lobule emphasizes exocrine function of the liver. A portal lobule has at its center a portal tract, and it consists of liver tissue which drains the bile into the bile duct of that portal tract. So here you can see that this is the portal tract, and in this portal tract lies the branch of the portal vein, branch of the bile duct, and branch of hepatic artery. So the area of hepatic lobules, this area which consists of the hepatocytes, so hepatocytes coming in this area which produces the bile, and which that will drain into the bile duct of this portal tract, bile ductule of this portal tract. So this is the portal lobule. Such a lobule is triangular in cross section and contains parts of 3 adjoining hepatic lobules and has a central vein at each of its 3 corners. So you can see here the central vein is as at the 3 corners of the portal lobule, and it signifies the exocrine function of the liver. So this is the histological section, and you can see here the portal lobule consists of central part which contains the hepatic lobule and the 3 central vein at the corner. So the hepatocytes lying in these adjacent areas, they drain their bile into the bile ductule present in the portal tract. So liver acinus is another way of subdividing the liver tissue into structural units. This structural unit provides the best correlation between the blood perfusion and metabolic activity of the hepatocytes, and also explain the response of these cells to the blood-borne toxins. Now each hepatic acinus is an ovoid area of the liver parenchyma. The long axis of this ovoid area corresponds to the line drawn between the two neighboring central veins. Now these are the two neighboring central veins, and the long axis corresponds to a line drawn between these two neighboring central veins. The short axis of the ovoid hepatic acinus corresponds to a line drawn between the two adjacent portal trioids. So the short axis, it corresponds to the two portal trioids lying adjacent. The distributing branches of the portal vein and those of hepatic artery run in the short axis of the hepatic acinus. Now these are the distributing branches, and they run in the short axis of this hepatic acinus. Each hepatic acinus includes adjacent areas of the two neighboring hepatic lobules. Now this is the hepatic acinus, this is the long axis of the hepatic acinus, and this is the long axis of the hepatic acinus, and this is the short axis. And you can see at the corners of the short axis lies the portal areas, while at the corners of the long axis lies the central vein. And taking into account the proximity of hepatocytes to the blood vessels and bile ductules running in the central axis, that is the short axis, each hepatic acinus is divided into 3 zones. Now the innermost zone, the zone 1, this is the zone 1. The hepatocytes of this zone lie close to the penetrating branches of the hepatic artery and portal vein, and therefore these cells are the first to receive oxygen and nutrients. Consequently, these cells are the last to die if the blood supply of the liver is impaired, and first to regenerate when the blood supply is restored. The cells of the zone 1 are also the first to show pathological changes if the blood entering the liver contains toxins absorbed from the small intestine. Now the intermediate zone, that is the zone 2, this is the intermediate zone, and this zone consists of hepatocytes lying between the innermost and outermost zone. This is the innermost and this is the outermost zone, and their response to ischemia and blood-borne toxins is of intermediate extent as compared to the hepatocytes of the innermost and the outermost. Now the outermost zone, that is the zone 3, the hepatocytes of this zone are located farthest from the branches of the hepatic artery and portal vein. In case of liver ischemia, the cells of the zone 3 die first of all, and they are last to regenerate when the blood supply is restored. So understandably, the hepatocytes of zone 3 are the last to be affected by the blood-borne toxins. The hepatocytes are large polygonal cells having 6 or more surfaces. You can see here they are large polygonal cells having 6 or more surfaces, and the hepatocytes are closely packed together to form the anastomosing plates, and that are arranged radially around the central vein. And the plates of hepatocytes are generally 1 cell thick, and they are separated from one another by hepatic sinusoids. So these are these sinusoids, hepatic sinusoids. Now most of the hepatocytes are single cells, they have got single spherical nucleus, but nearly 25% of them contain two nuclei. So here you can see the binucleated, this one binucleated cell, this one binucleated cell, and this one. This hepatocyte has got two nuclei. So these are binucleated cells. The small nucleus are diploid, while the larger nuclei are polyploid. The conspicuous features of the hepatocyte nucleus is the presence of scattered clumps of heterochromatin. Each nucleus also contains one or more prominent nucleoli. Now in this H&E stained sections examined under the light microscope, the cytoplasm of hepatocytes, they generally stains acidophilic because of presence of abundant mitochondria and smooth endoplasmic reticulum. However, some basophilic regions can also be distinguished, which represent cisterns of rough endoplasmic reticulum. The cytoplasm of also contain large numbers of glycogen granules and fat droplets. But in routine histological preparation, these substances are washed out, leaving some empty spaces in the cytoplasm of the hepatocytes. As the hepatocytes are arranged in plates that are 1 cell thick, therefore they do not have apical or basal surfaces corresponding to the epithelial cells of the other exocrine glands. However, the hepatocytes are highly polarized, and due to their apicular arrangement, these cells possess three domains on the surface, which are sinusoidal surface, canalicular surface, and intercellular surface. Let me show you these in another diagram. Now the spaces between the plates of hepatocytes are occupied by the sinusoidal capillaries called the hepatic sinusoids. So these are the sinusoids. You can see here, this is a type of capillary, and the other type of capillaries are the continuous and the fenestrated. So this is sinusoidal capillary. This is more in diameter as compared to the other two types, and these sinusoids have an incomplete basal lamina, and they are lined by two types of cells: the endothelial cells, flattened endothelial cells. You can see here flattened endothelial cells. This is the endothelial cell, this is the endothelial cell lining the sinusoid. This is the flattened endothelial cell lining the sinusoid, and the other cells are the Kupffer cells. This is the Kupffer cell, which is the liver macrophage. The endothelial cells shows fenestrations which are not closed by diaphragm, so they have got pores, they have got gaps in between them, and they do not show the diaphragm. They do not have a diaphragm on these gaps. The intercellular gaps are also present between the adjacent endothelial cells. So the adjacent endothelial cells are wide apart, and their fenestra, their pores have got no diaphragm, and the basement membrane of sinusoidal epithelium is also interrupted and extremely thin, and it consists of reticular fibers only. The Kupffer cells, also called stellate macrophages, are large star-shaped phagocytic cells that belong to the mononuclear phagocyte system. These cells have multiple long processes and are interspread among the endothelial cells lining of the hepatic sinusoids. So these are the Kupffer cells. The process of Kupffer cells extend into the lumen of the hepatic sinusoids. The major function of the Kupffer cell is to engulf and break down the damaged and aged erythrocytes. This function is greatly enhanced after splenectomy, but that is the removal of spleen. The Kupffer cells also serve as antigen presenting cells by engulfing those bacteria which manage to enter the portal circulation by penetrating the intestinal wall. You can see the blood cells in the sinusoid. So these are the sinusoids. Now this is the sinusoid, hepatic sinusoid, showing its cells, lining cells. The Kupffer cells, you can see that it has got spherical nucleus, oval nucleus, and the cytoplasmic process are there. And this is the endothelial cell with flattened nuclei. So these are lining the hepatic sinusoid. Adjacent to the blood sinusoid, the surface of the hepatocyte is separated from the wall of the sinusoid by a narrow space that mainly contains reticular fibers and blood plasma. So these are the surfaces of the hepatocytes facing the sinusoid, and this is the endothelium of the sinusoid, discontinuous layer. You can see here, this is the blood cells in the sinusoid. Now this space between the hepatocytes and the endothelial cell is known as space of Deci or perisinusoidal space, and it contains the reticular fibers and blood plasma. This space, called perisinusoidal space or space of Deci, is site where exchange of materials between the plasma and the hepatocyte take place. As I have told you already, the sinusoidal surface of the hepatocytes bears microvilli which protrude into the perisinusoidal space. These are the microvilli. This is a diagrammatic picture. The perisinusoidal space also contains star-shaped cells called the hepatic stellate cells, which are also called hepatic lipocytes or ito cells. Normally, the ito cells store vitamin A as retinyl esters within the cytoplasm in the cytoplasm in the form of lipid droplets. In pathological conditions, however, these cells secrete type 1 and type 2 collagen fibers that are deposited in the perisinusoidal space, resulting in the fibrosis of liver. So these ito cells are responsible for the production of fibrosis in the liver. So this is again a diagrammatic picture. You can see here the hepatocytes facing the sinusoids, and this surface have got microvilli, and this is the endothelial layer of the sinusoid, and the location of Kupffer cell, and then the ito cells. They are present in the space of Deci. This is space of Deci between the hepatocyte and the endothelial cell, basal lamina of endothelial cell. So these are the ito cells. The duct system of the biliary tree. Now the system of channels through which the bile flows from the hepatocytes to the gallbladder and then to the duodenum is called biliary tree. This system is divided into two parts, intrahepatic and extrahepatic. The intrahepatic part of the biliary tree consists of the canaliculi, the space between the hepatocytes, then the canals of Hering, bile ductules. These are the bile ductules, then interlobular ducts, and the right and left hepatic ducts, and then the common hepatic duct, and then this common hepatic duct combined with the cystic duct to form the common bile duct, and this common bile duct along with the pancreatic duct open up into the second part of the duodenum. So all the tubular passages of the biliary tree except the canaliculi, they are lined by a single layer of special variety of epithelial cells called the cholangiocytes. So these are the bile canaliculi, canal of Hering's, and then ultimately bile ductule opening up into the bile ductule, and these are lined by cholangiocytes. In the smaller ducts, the cholangiocytes are cuboidal in shape, but their height increases as the duct diameter becomes greater. And in the larger ducts, the cholangiocytes are columnar in shape. Adjacent cholangiocytes are firmly bound to each other by tight junctions. The cholangiocytes bear many microvilli and a single primary cilium on their luminal surface. The cilia of the cholangiocyte project into the lumen of the biliary ducts and monitor the components of the bile flowing in the duct lumen. Now, signals generated from the primary cilia result in alteration in the functional activity of the cholangiocytes. Now, what is the function of these cholangiocytes? They have a secretory as well as absorptive function. They secrete water, chloride ions and bicarbonate ions into the bile and reabsorb the bile acids, amino acids and glucose from the bile. Now, bile canaliculi, the biliary tree begins with a very small canal channels, that is 0.5 to 2.5 micrometer in diameter, which are called the canaliculi. As I have explained earlier with the structure of the hepatocyte, that each bile canaliculi is a narrow tubular passage formed by perfect opposition of grooves on the canalicular surface of adjacent hepatocytes. Therefore, the walls of bile canaliculi are formed by the plasma membrane of the hepatocyte, and they are not lined by any type of epithelium. Now, a bile canaliculum exhibits an irregular or stellate lumen in the section examined under electron microscope, because microvilli project from the hepatocytes into the cavity of the canaliculus. The microvilli serve to increase the surface area through which bile can be secreted from the hepatocytes. The lumen of each bile canaliculus is sealed off from the intercellular compartment by occluding junctions. So between the bile canaliculi and the hepatocytes are present occluding junctions, and the microvilli serve to increase the surface area through which the bile can be secreted through the hepatocytes. The lumen of each bile canaliculus is sealed off from the intercellular compartment by occluding junction, which are part of junctional complexes by which the canalicular surfaces of adjacent hepatocytes are bound together. So, canal of Hering's, the bile canaliculi pour their bile. Now, bile from the canaliculi, they pour into the short and narrow channels which are known as canal of Hering's. These channels convey bile into the bile ductules and are lined mainly by cuboidal cholangiocytes. A special feature of the epithelial lining of these canals is the presence of hepatic stem cells among the cholangiocytes. These cells are oval in shape and are also known as oval hepatic cells or simply oval cells. The oval cells are capable of producing progenitor cells for cholangiocytes as well as hepatocytes, and therefore play an extremely important role in regeneration of liver tissue after trauma or disease. Now, the hepatic bile ductules, these channels they range in diameter from 50 to 40 micrometer and lie in the connective tissue of the portal tracts, forming one of the three components of the portal triad. The bile ductules are lined by cuboidal cholangiocytes. Outer to the basement membrane of the cholangiocytes is present a thin sheet of connective tissue. You can see here a thin sheet of connective tissue is present outside the cholangiocytes. Then the interlobular ducts, in the right and left hepatic duct, and then the extrabiliary pathway, as I have told you.